iconic legend, Neal Hamil.
Aww.
You are
Sweet.
a Houston, New York, I want to say sweetheart because everyone just adores you in
Not
a
everyone,
way.
but
The people who matter.
well, some of them don't either, but that's okay.
But I feel so connected to you. We've never really sat down and talked.
No, I know.
We've never gone to lunch.
How is that possible?
But
busy, everyone's busy.
Everybody's super
and then
busy.
We lost 2 years to COVID, so there's that.
We did. And we both are like in the Omicron. Deborah Duncan calls it the fraternity sorority Omicron. We could have parties with everybody.
Her.
I know.
Talk about someone everyone loves.
Yes,
Deborah Duncan.
she is. And we're friends. And I
so
forget
great.
when I go places that she's a celebrity. People are like, can I have your picture?
Right.
It's very cute. Love you, Deborah.
Yes.
But, okay, so you have lived this incredible journey of authenticity and following your passion and figuring out how to make a living, a really amazing living, doing what you love to do. And you're a Houstonian.
Baytonian originally, but yes.
Oh,
Same
Baytonian.
thing.
I even read French horn.
Yes.
Can you believe
Boy, you did
that?
your homework.
I've been digging.
No one's ever asked me that.
Yes. Okay, then you become a model and you start modeling and then you realize you'd maybe rather be the
On
agent.
the other side of the desk, yes, I did. I hated modeling. It's super boring.
It is?
You wait. You go so many castings.
Uh-huh.
And you never know. The job when you're on a casting and people are like, "Oh, you're great. You're gonna hear from us." Those are the jobs you are not gonna get. The ones that ignore you and just go, "Thanks for coming," those are the jobs you're gonna get. It's so weird, but you go on all these appointments and all these castings and you wait your turn and all this kind of thing. Tedious and boring. And when I was modeling, we did not have iPhones, obviously.
No,
So
you waited till the
you
magazine came out.
Well, you brought a book.
Right.
On set. So you'd be on set.
Uh-huh.
The day is 9 to 5. And you're there most of that day doing nothing except waiting for your turn in front of the camera. And I just could not take it. So one day I was on a job and there were 10 models on the set. We were each making $1,000. We each are paying our agency $200, so we're getting $8, and the client who's hired us is paying the agency $200. And I sat there and I did the math, and I'm like, I am definitely on the wrong side of this. So I was like, you know what? It's smarter to own 1% of Exxon than 99% of a gas station. And that's when I went, I'm switching sides. I'm definitely going to the other side. And I never looked back, ever.
You did it with your sister.
Yeah, we started Neal Hamil Agency together because she has a business background and business degree. And, you know, the person that's going to manage the money, I mean, who better than your flesh and blood?
And they say that about doctors, right? Like they're great at being doctors, but they need that business side.
Yeah, well, she definitely handled all of that and did it incredibly well. And we never, ever disagreed on anything, which is great. I let her do her side. She let me do mine.
Y'all stayed in your lane.
We did. And our offices were on 2 different floors. So it's not like I saw her all day, every day.
Yes.
But I would have been delighted to. But we were always very close, and that brought us very close.
Because sometimes that could tear you apart. I worked with the family.
Our family, we had a rule, and that was outside of the office, we did not discuss business. We kept it the family, and the company. And we never had a problem anyway.
And I love that you,
Thank God.
I mean, it's a big deal. I spent 22 years working in a family business, and so I've talked to a lot of people in family businesses.
Yeah.
And then I listened to an interview, and someone asked you what the most incredible thing that you learned from your parents, and at that time you said, do you remember?
I learned a lot from them.
You said have faith.
Yeah, faith, yes. And integrity and those kinds of things. Yes. We were very lucky. You know, we were from a very nice family, and our parents had impeccable values, and they instilled them in us. And I'll tell you, one of the things I think that Eileen Ford recognized in me was that. And Eileen and Jerry Ford knew my parents over time. They got to know not to know them,
Okay.
and they had great respect for my parents, and my parents had great respect for them. And once my mother said to Eileen, she said, you know, I never worried about Neal moving to New York because I knew he was with you and that you would watch over him and take care of him, just as I would have. And Eileen said, that's the nicest thing you could have ever said to me, and I've done my best. And she really did, because Eileen and Jerry were kind of like the same generation and
Yes.
children of the Depression. And
There's, I've done some research, and there's a Japanese term, which I can't even remember what it is. I think it's called moana, but it's when you're born, you're given this group of people that stay with you through life and help you through.
I believe that.
And so many people who I find that are living a purposeful life, following their passion, taking that risk, have these people that mentored them, that they could trust.
Right.
And I mean, how amazing that yours is Eileen Ford. So you own this modeling agency in Houston. She's coming here.
She came every year for 10 years.
To help you.
And every year she would
scout
come.
talent.
We would do a model search with the Ford agency all over Texas. And she sometimes came with Jerry and sometimes by herself. And without fail, every single time on her last day here, she'd say, I do not understand why you're here. You're wasting your time and your talent. You need to be with us.
Wow.
And I said, well, I don't know if you've noticed, but I own my own business.
Yeah, I'm feeling like I'm kind of doing my deal.
I get it, but she's like, and then the opportunity arose to sell it, and my sister's kids were reaching an age where she wanted to be really engaged with them, and they used to crawl around the office when they were babies, and they were entering like junior high, high school, and she wanted to be more engaged, and that was the right decision. And we had started kind of talking about it, and then just out of the blue, the phone rang, and it was a friend who said, a friend of mine wants to buy your business. And I said, well, get the lawyers and the accountants all talking, and I don't want to get involved in this too deeply, because if there's a deal to be made, it'll be made, and if there's not, there's not. But I'm busy as can be and don't really want to waste my time. And we ended up making the deal, and I had already planned to be in New York, so I went on my trip and had lunch with Eileen and Jerry, and I said, well, I have some news. I've sold my agency. And Eileen said, oh my God, that's it. You're joining Ford. When can you start? And this was like 2 weeks before Christmas, I think. And she's like, how about January 3rd? I said, what am I going to do? What are you going to pay me? She goes, all that will get worked out. Are we doing this? Finally, I said, I guess so. And that was it.
Wow.
And she really did champion me. I mean, soon after I got there, within the first maybe 6 months, maybe a little less, they hosted a lunch at their East 68th Street brownstone. And Eileen and Jerry assembled the editor-in-chief of Vogue, the owner of Maybelline, the head of one of the biggest advertising agencies that's now been since sold and is called something else, and like 8 of the most important people in the entire business. And Eileen said, you're here today because that's my guy, and I want you to start working with him. And that's all I'm really here to tell you. And I was like, she never told me any of this. So I'm like, oh my God, you're dropping this right in my lap. And so it was an interesting dynamic, because a lot of the other agents in the women's business at Ford had been there a long time. And here I come from, and they were all New Yorkers, all of them. Here I come from Texas, and
it's not always a warm reception.
No,
I told you, I've spent a lot of time there.
I'm Eileen's boy.
Yeah.
And that got around real quick, which she made sure it did, which was having my back, and she always did. But occasionally someone would say something really rude, like, you're not on a farm. I'm like, I'm not?
Exactly.
Oh, shit. Well, since I didn't grow up on one, it would be hard for me to recognize one. And I would just say really rude shit back. So one day it all changed, and that was one of the other agents is suddenly talking to me. I'm like, I don't even know why you're speaking to me. Can you see I'm super busy? And she's like, can I tell you something? Can I just tell you something? Don't ask me. This was God. I stood up and I leaned all the way over and I said, can you tell me something? Can you tell me something? Is that what you just said? You can't tell me an thing. So sit down, shut up, mind your business. I'm not interested in anything you have to say. I never have been and I never will be. Are we clear?
Good for you.
And everyone was like, that one bites. So Eileen came back to the office and she asked me and that agent to come in and she goes, so what happened while I was gone? And I just looked at that woman and I went, go for ladies first. And she says, no, you go first. And I said, no, I insist. And Eileen said, go to this woman. And she's telling her, and I said that. I also said that. I said that too. And I meant it. I've had enough of her. She's a lousy agent. So Eileen was like, okay, I think I get the picture. I went back to my desk. She went back to her desk. And within 10 minutes, here they came. They said, you need to pack your things. And when Eileen fired her, that was my moment.
Yes.
Everyone in that company was like, don't mess with him.
Exactly.
Big Mama will get you back for him, right? So that was it. And we traveled all over the world together. She taught me how to find models, how to scout models, how to recruit them. And then we also had country houses literally 8 minutes apart in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. So if we were in town, we both traveled a lot, but if we were both in New Jersey on the weekend, that was it. We had spent tons of time, her house, my house, whatever, and we became even closer. And we never talked about the agency, not once.
Interesting.
Not once.
And I do think that...
We were real friends.
Yes, when you truly care deeply for the people that you're with and they are part of your work family, they become part of your whole world, that it changes the dynamics of how committed you are to the overall purpose of what you're doing together. And how innovative of her to see you as different.
She trusted me. That was the main thing. She trusted me. That's why she invested so much in me. She knew that I came from the right kind of cloth. You know what I'm saying? And so
yes,
she recognized that. So I mentored a lot of other people.
Oh,
because I really firmly believe you have to pay everything forward.
Yes.
That's how the universe works.
Does.
And so I had lots of assistants. I trained them. I taught them everything. I was never afraid to tell anyone in that company what I knew. Because it's just, a rising tide raises all boats. And
yes,
some assistants took the information, stayed put, learned, developed. I would give them models who became really big agents later. And some didn't make the cut. But there's a funny story. There's a girl named Barbara Feinstein. She worked for Lee Daniels, the producer, and she wanted to go to the talent management side. So I had her managing my clients for TV and films and stuff. I certainly supervised the activity, but she was from that world, and
yes.
so, and I made her cry every single day, every day. I made her cry every day. So one day I took her to lunch and I said, I'm going to explain why I'm so hard on you, because you're amazing. Oh. And you could run Hollywood one day, but I'm not going to let you get away with anything. You're going to do it right. You're going to do it perfectly right. And you're going to do it my way, which is the right way.
Yes.
And your tears do not bother me, by the way. You can cry all you want. I don't care. I'm investing in you, and you need to understand why. She never cried again. She would shoot the finger at me when I turned my back. I'm certain. So her mom and dad, she's from Canada. Her mom and dad were visiting from Canada, and her parents asked to see me for lunch without her. And
Wow.
I said, absolutely. Her father said, there are not words to express our gratitude to you. You have taken a spoiled rich kid and turned her into a woman, a businesswoman, an adult who is maturing. And what you're giving her her entire future. And we just want to thank you. But I did make her cry every day. And I used to just laugh. She's bawling her eyes out because I've just ripped into her. And when I'm done and she's crying, I'm just laughing. I'm like, you're ridiculous. Those tears mean nothing to me. But once I took her to lunch,
And
and
she
I
understand what
explained,
was behind it, why you were doing
then
that.
she got it. You know, Eileen screamed at everybody but me.
Oh,
She never screamed. She
interesting.
screamed at me one time, and boy, I didn't take it. And I went right back, followed her back to her office, and I closed her door, and I said, if you ever dare speak to me like that again, my own mother has never talked to me like that, and you're not going to either. Because if you do, I will walk right out that door, and when I go out, I'm not coming back in. And she burst into tears and said, I'm so sorry, I'll never do it again. And she never did. But sometimes you just have to have that
And that's what
that
I'm hearing
moment
from
with
you.
people.
You are very clear with your boundaries, and you are very clear with your purpose.
That's true. Boundaries.
And when people figure out what their purpose is, what their drive is, then they can make clearer decisions to get to where they need to go.
I think people have to understand where you're coming from and really what your true purpose is in your interaction with them. You know, I've had to tell many, many, many super famous people, we're not doing that.
Right.
You're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. You know, one of the things I learned about agenting was, and I trained all my assistants and many other agents in the company at Ford and Elite, was always under promise and over deliver.
Yes.
And this is something that I think is just so key when you're in a position like that. I used to say, like, some offer would come in for Jerry Hall or whoever, and it would be like $500,000 to do X, Y, and Z. And I wouldn't tell them. I wouldn't say. I'd say, I'm working on a deal, and it's going to happen about this week in July in Santorini or wherever. Give them some things to think about, but I would never say, and, you know, it's going to be this. I might say, the offer's strong, but I got to work on this. And so if they said, well, where is it now? And I'd say, you know, like $500,000 or whatever. I knew I could get more, always. And then I would send them the contract, and it would say $1 million, and they would call me and go, what? You got it doubled? I'm like, yeah, because I'm good. Now sign it. And 100% of the time, you know, it's really, really, really funny. I watched so many people do the opposite, and it will end you, because even in real estate, you know.
Yes, because I'm seeing this transition. You were supermodels, and now you're super houses.
Yes.
I love that.
But you know, it's still managing expectations, and this
is.
is why when people manage my expectations, I'm a lot happier. Don't tell me you're going to do all these crazy things and then don't do them. Much better to really establish, you know, sort of like, we're going to breathe and we're going to do this calmly. Also, I don't get excited and anxious and crazy. In a storm, I'm the calmest person. When the building is on fire, I'm the person that you want there.
Okay.
Because I will stay perfectly calm. And my brain just goes into this place where it just gets very organized. And we're going to do this, this. I don't react well to people that are being hysterical, which is why I was really good at my job in the model business. I dealt with a lot of super hysterical people.
Because they're artists, in essence, that feel
because
like
they're
divas.
bullies.
Oh
yeah, no, it's all about, it's not so much that they're artists. I mean, the art side, some girls would be like, well, I don't really want to work with that photographer ever again or whatever. And that certainly is the artistic part of it as well. But it was more
feeling
just especially when you have 6 supermodels and they're all on the same job.
Yeah, who?
I mean, and they start talking about how much this, you know, and all this kind of thing. I learned also early on that when you have 5 major supermodels on the same job, you just make sure they all get the same. You can't get this one
For more.
100,000 and get that. No, you have to get all the same. And you know what's really funny is I never had to worry about Naomi Campbell, because if she weren't getting the same, she would, like, this is back in her really when she was feisty.
Her tantrum?
Yes,
Yeah.
she'd call a press conference, you know,
Oh my
and accuse people
goodness.
of doing all kinds of things. But also, I'm very, very proud. One of the things I'm extremely proud of in my years in the business there was I was very early on the front lines of addressing racism. Mm-hmm. I really was. And Andre Leon Talley,
Oh, God
rest his soul, and Beth Ann Hardison, there was a group of people that came together, but I had all the big black superstars.
Oh, okay.
So it was very natural for me, right? I'd already had to break through some barriers just to get them there. Because when I got to New York, I mean, we would get these casting sheets and it would say white girls only. And I'd be like, that is so offensive.
It is.
So
Do you want a water?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, good.
I would still send my clients. You know, I would still send them because I'm like, well, we're not playing that game here, so let's
So who was the first on the runway? Was it Naomi?
Oh no, there were models way before her.
Okay, good. And mostly in Europe, because they didn't seem to see color like we did in the
No,
U.S.
the French designers. There's a girl from Houston, Texas, that was with. I started when she was with Neal Hamil, and I was there. Her name is Jody Beard.
Okay.
And she was one of the first models I sent to Europe. And the day she got to Paris, Yves Saint Laurent and Hubert de Givenchy both put her under contract. And she was their house model and did every show, opened and closed. I mean, she was everything. And so those designers, the French designers, especially those two, were very open, very, very open. And I went to visit, I was in Paris, and I went to visit her at Givenchy and at Yves Saint Laurent, and both men were there, fitting things on her. So I met them both. That's the first time I met them, and they both made a point to tell me what a wonderful model she was and what a nice person. She was so sweet. She had a huge career. Then she got married to a guy in the U.S. military. They moved back to Houston. Now she's a mom and an artist. But you know,
I'd love to interview her as a podcast
you should.
guest,
You
because
should. She's
that's a
great.
fascinating.
You will see the light in her.
Yes.
It will blind you. But
And I read that quote you said also, that you don't just look at the outside beauty, you look for the light inside of the models.
Yes, and Eileen used to say, meet the mother, know the girl. So if there was a girl that was like, Eileen would be like, well, I could have told you that one was going to be a problem. I met her mother, who's crazy. No, I'm just kidding. But so we were on the forefront of Veronica Webb, the first black model to have a cosmetics contract with Revlon. That was me.
Incredible.
And she, from Detroit, Michigan, everyone in the business will tell you, to this day, she's the smartest of them all. She is a brilliant mind. So Andre, Beth Ann, Veronica, myself, we really went on a campaign. And Veronica and I went on the Today Show, and Hoda Kotb interviewed us about racism in the fashion business. And, you know, you always have a little kind of conversation with a producer about what you're going to talk about. So at the very end, Hoda asked me something, and I said, I changed my answer. And I said, bottom line, vote with your dollars. If Prada does not, if you're not reflected in what they're doing,
then
don't buy their products.
Oh, shit.
I got in so much trouble for saying that. And I said, I stand by what I said. I'm not backing down. I meant it. It's wrong. It's just wrong. And so I did get in a lot. I got some blowback.
But at the time,
certainly from Prada, and I'm like, I don't care.
Oh,
I just don't care.
And so you called them out.
I called them out, and then we did some other things, and there was a whole group of, when I was running Elite, a whole group of industry leaders came together, and we had a conference about this, which came after the Today Show. That's what started it. And I said,
See, being prickly pays off.
Yes. I said, you know what? I think it's great that you're all here, and bravo for coming, but I want you to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
I want $10,000
dollars
from every single agency here. I want $10,000, and I said, we're going to create a fund, and we are going to take action. We are going to put money in the till, and we're going to really take this on. Do you know the one company that did it?
Really?
And I said, here's the first 10,000. Let's go.
It doesn't
So
surprise
I'm like, y'all
me.
are a bunch of punks.
But a lot
they
of
were
people,
afraid. I'm not afraid of anything. Yeah.
They have fear to stand up for what they believe in, and they also have fear in changing the way things are done.
Yeah.
I mean, a leader takes people from where they are to where they've never been before. And
I read that you said that. I saw where you said that. And you quoted someone as saying.
Yes, and
it's true.
It is.
Yeah.
It's scary for people. Mm-hmm. I think that's what COVID was the hardest, is we've never been here before. So we didn't know if we ever lived through a pandemic again, if we ever get out of this pandemic.
Oh my God.
The fear was worse.
It always is.
I mean, not worse, and I don't mean to diminish any deaths or what happened, but
I understand.
What we all feared, that all business in the world would shut down, and we would all. Weren't you concerned about real estate? Now, what is real estate? Like it's
it's crazy.
It doesn't even make sense. But so you were doing the work. You were reaching out to these people. You meet Nelson Mandela.
Oh my God!
With Naomi Campbell.
A moment I will.
Yes,
it's one
tell
of
us
my
about,
fondest, best memories of my whole life. Naomi produced a big fashion event with Versace in Cape Town to raise money for the Nelson Mandela Foundation. So because I was her agent, she and he were literally so close, it's unbelievable. I got to spend a lot of time in the presidential palace with Nelson Mandela, just the three of us. So there was one big party one night at the presidential palace. And I had a bunch of my other clients were there too. Every supermodel on the planet was booked for this, and Versace paid, for everybody to go.
Was this Gianni or this is Donatella?
This is Gianni.
Oh wow.
Mandela came up to me after, and he said, "I have watched you all evening, and I have decided you have the best job in the entire world."
Oh my God, that makes me cry. I mean,
And
wow.
Naomi was standing right next to me. I'm like, oh, you think she's like this all the time? Oh, no. Anyway, so he said, can I show you something? And I was like, of course. He said, so come with me. So we go in another room, and out comes this box, jewelry box. And he goes, I'm going to ask my girlfriend to marry me tomorrow. What do you think of the ring? Do you think she'll like it? And I'm like, I don't even think you have to give her a ring.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, I'm
You're
pretty
Nelson
sure the
Mandela.
answer's going to be yes. And I had met her, and I thought, oh gosh, this is so great, But I have to tell you that the first time I ever shook his hand and looked in his eyes, I almost burst into tears. The man had, the energy and the purity. No bitterness, no anger.
I'm emotional this
I know,
morning.
me
Sorry.
too. I still can't hardly talk about it.
I know.
No anger, no bitterness, total forgiveness, total embracing. And I had seen, from Cape Town, from the main ocean road, you can see the prison where he was. I mean, it's right there. And he spent all those years on that rock looking back at freedom.
It's just...
Not an ounce of anger or bitterness in him. And I couldn't take it. I mean, I literally just had to cry.
Yeah. it's
So I think about him.
and it gives such perspective, and that's what I find so hard for younger people. And my daughter and I had this conversation. I'm like, you're going to have to trust my years of experience.
Yes.
And even when things look bleak, if we choose gratitude, if we change, and it doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen to us,
Right.
because things happen. We have to keep focused on our purpose, what we want in life, and what is most meaning. And sometimes just
That's
our
true.
freedom, just the basis of freedom to express ourselves,
Totally.
what he was. So it's
Well, he's had a huge impact on me, and always will.
Did you ever watch the movie Unforgiven with the guy that?
I have seen it.
And
yes.
And I think of him with that pole on his back, and the Japanese prison warden is saying, if you drop the pole, you'll die. And he could hold it up like so long, and he never dropped it, and he was starving, and he overcame it, and then he was released, and he forgave the man. He wanted to go to Japan to forgive him. But I
Yes.
think there's so much power from this forgiveness.
There is.
I think during COVID, we all had a reset. We all had time to look at, because we weren't stopping, right? We were just
Right.
going. I don't know about your calendar. I heard you say that you like to stay home, but when you're a
Love to
busy
stay-
person, you have no time to stay
A day
home.
home is a gift from God. I mean, I couldn't be happier. Just
So did you have some resets during COVID? Did you have some time to look at things, or your real estate business was so busy that you
we
weren't
honestly, I was so
slowing
busy.
down?
I was working the entire time. I
So-
really did not ever. Well, until when I had it, and then I had to stop. But
Right.
it's amazing how things were just. And I must say, Sotheby's had the right approach to everything. It was super cautious, and the guidance, throughout all of Sotheby's was very, very good. And obviously, they have a reason to want to keep the business going, right?
Right.
Where so many businesses just stopped.
Yes.
But I would go often to the office, and we have 2 floors in the Amagi Tower, and sometimes I would be the only car in the garage and the only person in the building.
I believe that.
Because that's just what had to happen, right? Like, I just do what I have to do.
Yes. And that's that focus in you. And have you always felt that certain? Were there times that you didn't know what step to take? Because I feel like
No, I have always known what to. It's so funny, when within the first year of us having Neal Hamil Agency, the Houston Chronicle came and did a story, and I was 21. And the writer, I'll never forget this, looked at me and she said, I mean, how old are you? And I said, 21. And she's like, 21? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, but you're so young to... I said, honestly, I never thought about failing. I was too stupid to even think that you could fail in business. I thought you just rented an office and got some telephones and sat down and did your thing, and it worked. I never thought that it might not work. It never occurred to me it would not work, and I just never even entertained that thought. And she's like, I said, no, it's not because I'm enlightened or smart. It's I'm really stupid that I risked $60,000 of my dad's money, and I just thought, we're going to do this, right? And I've always known intuitively what was next. And I mean, I've made mistakes. You can't be 62 and move around in that world and not make a few. But I mean, by and large, I think I can look back and feel good about how I've treated people, what I've done. I don't really have any real regrets. You can't focus on that anyway. It doesn't bring you any happiness or,
Okay, I have to correct you there. I heard in this one interview that you said you had one regret.
that I didn't live in Paris.
Yes!
You did your homework. That's true. I had the
and I love
opportunity
that.
and I didn't do it.
So when Bella was 3, we rented an apartment in Paris, and we lived there for 12 weeks. And
Oh
it
my
was
God.
such, and she's 14 now, but there is such a shift in moving to a different place. So I've never moved everything like you did in New York. So that might be my one regret if you asked me
There's
and
still
Rob.
time.
I know. We're like, Bella, are you going to go to college in New York? No, not that.
Pick a college
where we could get an apartment.
I want to live.
Exactly.
No, that's
Help
great.
your mama out.
Yeah,
Give
right.
me an excuse.
For sure.
But I think it's such a like to start over. To start, I left. I listened to a speech about Lalique at the Museum of Fine Arts, and I also listened to Janet Gerwich a few weeks prior, and they both inspired me that I could leave my family business and start the Vintage Contessa, and I didn't do that till I was 40. And so,
And look, you've made a huge success.
but it's interesting because someone, like one of my husband's friends, who's a prominent person in the city, said to me recently, wow, I'm really impressed with what you're doing. And I thought, I've been doing it for 10 years and you finally noticed. So there is something to the fact that you show up every day and you do it. Even if the tree falls in the woods and no one hears it, eventually now with social media, they can go back and hear it later.
True. You have to show up. You have to show up. You have to, like I never look at anything as not worth doing. I mean, I'll tell you, some good friends of mine, they're actually neighbors, own a rental property, and I didn't even know that. The other day they called me and they said, we know this is probably not what you do, but would you be interested in handling our property? And I said, well, of course. So I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, this house is actually really, really cute, really nice. So, you know, it's like $3,000, $3,150. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I'll do that. I'm not going to, like, make any money, but they're my friends, and I would not, I feel truly grateful and flattered they'd even think of me, even though they live exactly across the street from me and I see them all the time.
But sometimes those people don't think to call you, and you're like,
so
how
true.
do they not know that I do that?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, so, I've learned that's another thing in real estate. Oftentimes people that and anyone getting their license, entering the business, I always say, first of all, don't get your license and enter the business. It's not what you think it is. Secondly, I'm like, you just know this. The people that you're like, oh, they'll hire me. They are the last people. And people you never imagined will call you up and say, hey, we want to list our $6 million house in Tanglewood. We want to list it with you. It's the weirdest thing, but building a real estate business takes 5 years minimum. And, I'm not pushy, I'm obnoxious, I don't hound people, the business I'm meant to have comes my way, and I put 100% into it. And I just, towards the end of last year, out of the blue, I had the opportunity to represent major oil company executive. And I was a little nervous because I don't know him, and I was like, oh my God. And so we got through all the process, and he was very professional. I was very professional, got through the whole process. We're leaving the closing, and he says, we'd like to invite you for a drink. I said, well, let's go. We sit down, and he goes, I wanted to tell you something. I thought, oh my God.
Oh, here it comes. What
is
this?
We've owned houses all over the world. We've worked with the best of the best real estate agents in the world, and some of the worst. You exceeded the best by a lot. And we really appreciate you. And I was like, whew.
And could he tell you what it was? Was it your overall
He said,
experience?
from start to finish, everything.
Oh, wow.
Every single thing was just beyond our expectation. And I thought about it after I got over being overwhelmed. I was like, oh my God, he said this? Then I started thinking about it, and I said, honestly, I didn't do anything any different to him than I will my neighbors who have at least their $3,000
Every
house. It will be exactly the same.
Yes,
yes,
experience.
but you have to show. it's not even sometimes like, yeah, no, it's not a huge commission, but I like them. They're cool
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
It's going to be easy, hopefully. And we put it on the market yesterday, and I'm showing it at 5 o'clock today. But you have to show up, as I've said now too many times. You have to show up, but you have to lean in and do exactly the same level for everybody. And I think that's really the thing. I never treated any of my models any differently from the others. Some of them I did not like at all, and to this day they don't know that. I would never say it.
Absolutely.
There's no point in saying it. We had a business relationship. We also had a personal relationship. Some of those girls are my family to this day.
Oh, sure.
And you know everything about them.
Yes.
I had one rule.
Yes.
If you are having an abortion, do not tell me. Just say you're sick and mark out the days, and we're going to leave it at that. That's too personal. I'm not even sure how I feel about it.
Right.
These are certain things that I don't want to know.
Yeah.
And that was really the only thing. And some of them dated horrible men. And when I first came in the business, Eileen said, never comment about their boyfriends.
Oh, yeah.
You have no opinion. They're great. They're just great. They're fine. They're wonderful, whatever. Because the minute you say something that you may see that's a big red flag, zip it. Because that's the guy they're going to end up marrying, and it's going to make your life a living hell.
Because you're the dad. They want your approval.
You're the dad, yes. So, I mean, the girls that listened to me in life all did very, very, very well. They all married very, very well, whether it's to a school teacher on Long Island or a guy worth $6 billion. I think they just felt like my arms were always around them, you know. And top models, aside from the shows, the jobs are not in New York. It's always traveling. They traveled a ton. I traveled a ton. We traveled together. I got to see the entire world, all first class on someone else's dime. That I'm not mad about. Now if I don't have to go to the airport for the rest of my life, I'll be very, very happy. But you know, you just become your lives become so intertwined. Like they spend a weekend at my country house, and I mean, and some of them I don't miss, and others, you know, obviously I miss terribly, but we stay in close contact. And so it's all about, no matter what I think business you're in, even in your business, it's all about people, relationships, how you treat people. I've always treated people like I wish to be treated. I can't imagine being rude to a waiter. Can't imagine it. Yes. Ask all the valet parkers in Houston. Ask any of them. They're like, he's our favorite guy.
And look them in the eye, and the bathroom attendants.
Yes, well, I smoke, so I go out to smoke. So I know all the valet parkers because I stand there and talk to them, and they think I'm funny, and I want to know what's going on with them, how their day is, and that's who I am. I mean, I like everybody, and to me there are no high class, low class, it's everyone, and truly, I mean this sincerely. Everyone is the same in my book. I don't care who you are, how much money you have, how much money you don't have, where you went to school. I don't care about any of that. I care about
the interpersonal
what
connection.
You and I, exactly. Nothing else matters to me.
And there's, I mentioned this in what I sent you about the podcast, the blue zones. I found out that 7 of the 9 characteristics in blue zones are about connection. And that's blue zones are where people live to be 100 or older. And what I was most intrigued about was all of the incredible people you've met and how you can carry yourself in those groups, because I tend to get intimidated. So I think it's interesting.
I can't imagine.
Sometimes you get, like when you said this Exxon person, but it seems like your magic is that you try to just see them all as just people and not what their mystique is, because I think we can psych ourselves out
right
to feel like they're better than us or they're more than us, or we're less than them. I certainly felt that oftentimes when visiting New York.
Well, New Yorkers can,
But how you get through that to the deep conversations or to the meaningful thing, and to get to a place you can be on the same page.
I'm really not intimidated by people, and that's also why I try not to be intimidating. I'm Scorpio, so
Yes.
these waters run really deep. But
Do you have that stinger?
Yes, I do. I
have lots of Scorpios in my life. My New York friend, her
exhausting.
husband, and both of my parents. And my ex-husband.
Well, he deserved it, probably.
He did!
I don't know, but I just say.
Oh,
but
goodness.
Honestly,
that's a whole other story.
It's a whole other thing. And
but I love them. They're trustworthy. They're loyal.
They're the most
as the
loyal.
day is long.
Without a doubt. But we're also super easy to wound. We'll never tell you. You can hurt our feelings in a way you never imagine, of something so stupid. Just one sentence can just, we are loath to tell you. And then one day, something goes awry, and out it comes. And it comes out really not nice. So, as I've aged, I've calmed and matured and chilled. And it's not as bad as it used to be. And I just really don't have much of a temper, not like I used to. But I try to keep my Scorpio in check. And I just allow the good part, the devotion to friends, loyalty, my best friend, I truly do not see anything she does wrong. I mean, I just look at her and think, you're my person, right?
Love that.
So, and she's very feisty, very, very feisty. But we have a way of, of 17 years, we figured out how to navigate each other, So I know what not to do that gets on her nerves.
Yes.
She knows what not to do that gets on my nerves. And so it's kind of like the perfect we're kind of like married, except that, we're not. But it's great. It's a very gratifying relationship. And that's really what it comes down to. And I tell you, a lot of the people that I really love the most are gone.
Aww.
So in a very short period of time, Jerry Ford died, my father died, my mother died, my best friend died, Eileen died, and my dog died. And those 18, 24 months were so catastrophic and devastating, and I never dealt with it. I just buried, I just was like, I don't have time for this. I can't feel this. And so there comes a day, and all of a sudden, and I tell everyone that loses a parent, talk to me. I'm going to call you and make sure you're okay, but I'm going to call you again in 6 months. Because it's that 6 months point where someone you're that close, when they're no longer there, is when it hits you like a freight train and you can't even breathe. I mean, it's so painful. So that's part of life, and that's also part of what puts you into a space where you go, this doesn't matter.
Yes, it gives you perspective.
You're being so ridiculous. I mean, you can have your hissy, just do you.
Yes.
I'm going to be over here. I'm going to be worried about things that matter, and this is not one of them. So I think that matters in real estate dealing, on the certain level in the business. I don't get upset. I'm like, okay, well, then let's not buy the house.
Right. I love that.
It's okay. We don't have to buy this house. There'll be more. High pressure and all that kind of thing, not my deal. I'm not big I'm not comfortable promoting myself. I'm comfortable doing this and talking to you. But not really. I'm used to promoting other people.
Well, I have loved promoting you. And I would be so excited if we could even get together and bring another friend
Let's get Jody. Jody Beard. She's super interesting.
I would love that. Let's do it together and just see where it goes.
Let's do it.
Okay,
I've loved it. Thank you.
So amazing. You are just the
You're
true
so sweet.
Picture of authenticity, of knowing what you want and knowing how to get it and believing in the process and the journey and being kind
Thank
and
you.
caring. So
Thank you.
thank you for what
It's
you
very
do
sweet.
for our community.
Thank you.
And I'm not sweet.
You're a
I'm
doll.
honest. On that note, everybody have a good week.
Thank
Bye.
Oh, you were such a doll.
Okay.